Okonkwo is a respected and influential leader within the Igbo community of Umuofia in eastern Nigeria. He first earns personal fame and distinction and brings honor to his village when he defeats Amanlize the cat in a wrestling contest. Okonkwo determines to gain titles for himself and become a powerful and wealthy man in spite of his father's weakness. In Umuofia, Okonkwo has earned his name, the name that will forever be associated with the strength of a lion, the pride of a man. Today, Okonkwo will defeat Amanlize the cat, and the village will echo with his triumph. The match is intense, but Okonkwo's raw power overcomes the legendary Amanlize. The crowd erupts in cheers. Okonkwo stands victorious, breathing heavily. His face is a mix of satisfaction and cold pride. Okonkwo sits by the fire, drinking palm wine. His gaze is distant as he stares the fire absently. Ojiugo, his wife, enters. She comes close. She's a beautiful woman. Okonkwo, the children are waiting for you. They miss you. I'm not a man who needs his children's affection. I need respect. I need strength. She watches him for a moment, her eyes softening. She approaches him slowly, kneeling beside him. You are the strength of this village, Okonkwo, but sometimes even the strongest men need tenderness. Okonkwo finally looks at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of longing and frustration. His hand reaches out and brushes her cheek gently, almost tenderly. There's a quiet, unspoken moment between them. I am not my father, Ojuigu. I will not be weak. But what about love, Okonkwo? Can it not be strong and tender? Love? Love is weakness. It does nothing but distract a man from his purpose. Love is not weakness. It is a force that can make you stronger. Okonkwo doesn't respond. Instead, he stands abruptly, the sudden movement breaking the silence. Okonkwo, the whole village sings your name now. Amanliza was a legend, but you have become a force to be reckoned with. This is just the beginning, Oberika. My name will be more than legend. It will be eternal. No one in Umuofia will ever question my strength again. As Okonkwo speaks, his wife, Ekwefi, Ojugo, and others step forward from the crowd, admiring their husband's victory. Ikwefi, ever the intellectual, smiles knowingly, though she is still cautious about the path Okonkwo is choosing. My husband is the mightiest of them all. Who would dare challenge such a man now? But strength is not all there is, Okonkwo. You know that. What of your heart? What of the family you're building? The family? What matters is power. The rest will follow. I will not be weak like my father. I will build an empire. There is a fleeting moment of tension between Okonkwo and his wives. But Ijuigo quickly wraps her arms around him, trying to ease the moment. Come now, let us celebrate. There is no empire without love, Okonkwo. The women lead Okonkwo to a feast, their laughter filling the air. Ikwefi watches, her eyes filled with silent worry, as Okonkwo's ambition begins to take over. Okonkwo's father, Unoka, was a lazy and wasteful man. He often borrowed money and then squandered it on palm wine and merrymaking with friends. Consequently, his wife and children often went hungry. Within the community, Unoka was considered a failure and a laughing stock. He was referred to as Agbala, one who resembles the weakness of a man and has no property. Unoka died a shameful death and left numerous debts. Okonkwo despised this and resents his father gently in idle ways. He resolves to overcome the same that he feels as a result of his father's weakness by being what he considered to be manly. Therefore, he dominates his wives and children by being insensitive and controlling. Father, you sit here wasting away while I build my future. What have you ever done for this family? Ah, Okonkwo, my son, always so serious. Life is for living. I have known many joys. You take yourself too seriously. You've won a fight, but you've lost the joy of life. You are a failure, Unoka. You waste your life on palm wine and empty laughter. I will not be like you. I will make something for myself. Okonkwo pauses for a moment, but his father only raises his cup, offering it to Okonkwo in a mocking gesture. You will see, my son. You think strength and pride will carry you far, but what you really need is peace within yourself. Your strength one day will become your chains. Okonkwo stares at his father with a mixture of anger and disbelief before storming out of the hut. Later that evening, Ekwefi, Okonkwo's second wife, enters. She's a strong and beautiful woman, her eyes filled with quiet intensity. She has been trying to help Okonkwo, but she knows there is little she can do to change his nature. She stands in the doorway, watching him drink from a gourd. Okonkwo, you are too harsh. The children, they need you. They fear you. Okonkwo looks up, meeting her gaze. There is a flicker of something vulnerable in his eyes as he sets the guard down. I fear them more than they fear me. That is not true. You fear being like your father, but you're not him, Okonkwo. You're more than that. She reaches out, gently touching his arm. I cannot fail. I will not be a man who is laughed at, like him. You are not him, Okonkwo. You are my husband. You're a leader. Okonkwo gazes at her for a long moment. Then, without warning, he pulls her towards him, kissing her deeply. You are only one. You are the only one who understands me. Because Okonkwo is the leader of his community, he's asked to care for a young boy named Ikemefuna, who is given to the village as a peace offering by the neighboring Mbanyo to avoid war with Umofia. Ikemefuna befriends Okonkwo's son, Nwoyi, and Okonkwo becomes inwardly fond of the boy. Over the years, Okonkwo becomes an extremely violent man. He's apt to explode at the slightest provocation. He violates the week of peace when he beats his younger wife, Ojuigu, because she went to braid her hair at a friend's house and forgot to prepare the afternoon meal and feed her children. Later, he severely beats and shoots a gun at his second wife, Ikwefi, because she took leaves from his banana plant to wrap food for the feast of the new yam. The village elders gather, and Okonkwo stands at the center. Ogbuefi Ezuedu, the oldest sister, delivers the oracle decree. The oracle has spoken. Ikemefuna must die. This is the will of the gods. I will do it. It must be done. Okonkwo, you do not have to do this. This boy has become like a son to you. Killing him will tear your heart apart. It will haunt you forever. I cannot show weakness. I cannot let my heart lead me. I must do this. Okonkwo, you are my father now. You will not hurt me, will you? Okonkwo, what is happening? Why are we here? Okonkwo looks down at the boy. His face, a mask of cold resolve. The village demands it. The oracle has spoken. What has the oracle said? Okonkwo pauses, his hand tightening on his machete. He turns to face the boy.
The oracle says you must die. Ikemefuna's face pales. The shock and fear clears in his eyes. Okonkwo, please, no! I have done nothing wrong. Okonkwo looks away, his hand trembling slightly as he grips the machete. I must not be weak. I must not. With a final heartbreaking look at the boy, Okonkwo raises the machete. Okonkwo hesitates, but his pride and fear drive him to strike. The air is filled with a heavy silence as Ikemefuna falls. Okonkwo's face twists in regret and internal torment. Later, Okonkwo sits alone in the dark hut, his face lined with regret. Ojiugo enters, her eyes searching his face. Hi. You killed him, didn't you? Okonkwo looks up at her eyes, his eyes hard, yet there's something broken in them. I had no choice, Ojiugo. I had to prove myself. But at what cost, Okonkwo? At what cost? She approaches him slowly, sitting beside him. She places her hand on his, and for a brief moment, their eyes meet, with an unspoken understanding of the torment they both carry. You have lost your humanity, Okonkwo. Is this really the man you want to be? I don't know anymore. I don't know if I ever was. Okonkwo becomes depressed after killing Ikemefuna. So he visits his best friend, Obiorika, who disapproves of his role in Ikemefuna's killing. Obiorika says that Okonkwo's act will upset the earth and the earth goddess will seek revenge. After discussing Ikemefuna's death with Obiorika, Okonkwo is finally able to sleep restfully. But he's awakened by his wife, Ikwefi, their daughter, Izima, whom Okonkwo is fond of. She's dying. Okonkwo gathers grasses, barks, and leaves to prepare medicine for Izima. A public trial is held on the village commons. 9 clan leaders, including Okonkwo, represents the spirits of their ancestors. The 9 clan leaders, Oegugu, also represent the 9 villages of Umuofia. Okonkwo does not sit among the other 8 leaders or elders while they listen to a dispute between an estranged husband and wife. The wife, Ngbafo, had been severely beaten by her husband. Her brother took her back to the family village, but her husband wanted her back home. The Egugu tells the husband to take wine to his in-laws and beg his wife to come home. One elder wonders why such a trivial dispute would come before the Egugu. In Okonkwo's compound, during the week of peace, Ojiugo has failed to prepare the meal on time, and Okonkwo is enraged. His tempers flare as he walks into the compound. Ojiugo, you have broken the law of our people. You have violated the week of peace. You would not escape this. I'm sorry, Okonkwo. I lost track of time. I went to braid my hair and I forgot. Please forgive me. Okonkwo, remember the peace of this week. Let this anger go. No punishment should come now. Weakness cannot be allowed, Ikwefi. You are too soft. She must learn discipline. He raises his hand as if to strike Ojiugo, but Ikwefi intervenes again. Standing strong in front of him, Okonkwo, please. This is not the way. We're a family. We're not enemies. For a moment, Okonkwo anger's falters. His gaze softens, but only briefly before he storms off, leaving his wife in silence. In her role as a priestess, Chielo tells Ikwefi, Okonkwo's second wife, that Agbala, the oracle of the hills and caves, needs to see Izima. Although Okonkwo and Ikwefi protest, Chielo takes a terrified Izima on her back and forbids anyone to follow. Chielo carries Izima to all 9 villages and then enters the oracle's cave. Ikwefi follows secretly, in spite of Chielo's admonitions, and waits at the entrance of the oracle. Okonkwo surprises Ikwefi by arriving at the cave, and he also waits with her. The next morning, Chielo takes Ezima to Ekwefi's hut and puts her to bed. When Ugbuefi Ezudu dies, Okonkwo worries because the last time he saw Ezeudu visited him was when he warned Okonkwo against participating in the killing of Ikemefuna. Ezeudu was an important leader in the village and achieved 3 titles of the clan's 4, a rare accomplishment. During the large funeral, Okonkwo's gun goes off and Ezeudu's 16-year-old son is killed accidentally. Because the accidental killing of a clansman is a crime against the earth goddess, Okonkwo and his family must be exiled from Umuofia for 7 years. The family moves to Okonkwo's mother's village, Mbata. After they depart Umuofia, a group of village men destroy Okonkwo's compound and kill his animals to cleanse the village of Okonkwo's sin. Oberika stores Okonkwo's yarns in his barn and wonders about the old tradition of the Igbo culture. The morning light flitters through the trees, casting long shadows on the ground. The atmosphere is heavy, charged with impending change. Okonkwo, a man hardened by his struggles and belief, stands outside his hut, gazing at the horizon. His mind is consumed by the events of the past weeks, the shift in his village, and the slow unraveling of his world. This is not the fight I fought for. This is not what I came back to. Nwoye, Okonkwo's son, approaches him cautiously, but Okonkwo doesn't turn. The tension between them is great. Father, he hesitates, struggling to speak to Okonkwo, who has always been distant. The missionaries, they're changing everything. Some of the elders, they're beginning to see that this may not be a curse. Okonkwo turns to Nwoye, his eyes dark with frustration. You too? Are you going to abandon your heritage like the others? You leave your father behind and follow them into this madness? No, father, I haven't abandoned anything. I'm just thinking. Okonkwo's eyes narrow and his voice sharpens. You are thinking? You are losing your mind. This is how it starts. First it's a thought, then it's a choice, and then you're just another man without a spine. Nwoye looks away, unable to hold Okonkwo's intense gaze. He knows this fight is too big for words. Maybe we're the ones who are lost. Maybe we're the ones who don't see. Okonkwo walks towards his son, towering over him. You see nothing. All you see are shadows and lies, dressed in the false promises of these men. You think they would save us? They would only destroy everything we have. A long silence falls. Nwoye looks torn, but Okonkwo storms off, angry and hurt. The sounds of their distant argument are overshadowed by the humming of the locusts that would have come again. Their wings, a reminder of the decay Okonkwo feels growing in his soul. Okonkwo is welcomed to Mbata by his maternal uncle, Uchendu, a village elder. He gives Okonkwo a plot of land on which to farm and build a compound for his family. But Okonkwo is depressed and he blames his chi, or personal spirit, for his failure to achieve lasting greatness. During Okonkwo's second year in exile, he receives a visit from his best friend, Oberika, who recounts sad news about the village of Abame after a white man rode into the village on a bicycle. The elders of Abame consulted their oracle, which told them that the white man would destroy their clan and other clans. Consequently, the villagers killed the white man, but weeks later, a large group of men slaughtered the villagers in retribution. The village of Abame is now deserted. Okonkwo and Uchendu agree that the villagers were foolish to kill a man whom they knew nothing about. Later, Oberika gives Okonkwo money that he received from selling Okonkwo's yams and seed yams, and he promises to do so until Okonkwo returns to Mafia. The village square is crowded. The elders gather, and the air is thick with murmurs. The atmosphere feels charged, as if something is about to happen. This is a test of strength. We must rise to it as we always have. They came to steal our souls, our lives, but we will not bend. Agodo will stand. Okonkwo, there's so much strength we can muster. The changes, they're coming whether we like it or not. You speak as though we are weak, as though we would roll over and let them crush us. I will not sit idle while the world crumbles beneath my feet. Oberika looks at Okonkwo, searching for the man he used to know. His voice is filled with sadness. I know you, Okonkwo, but there are battles that cannot be won with fists alone. There are forces that are beyond us. They are nothing but shadows, and shadows, Oberika, are meant to be cast out. The air in the square seems to thicken as Okonkwo and Oberika exchange tense looks. The younger men watch quietly, unsure of where this conversation would lead. 6 missionaries, including one white man, arrive in Mbanta. The white man speaks to the people about Christianity. Okonkwo believes that the man speaks nonsense, but his son, Nwoye, is captivated and becomes a convert of Christianity. The Christian missionaries build a church on land given to them by the village leaders. However, the land is a part of the evil forest, and according to tradition, the villagers believe that the missionaries will die because they built their church on cursed land. But when nothing happens to the missionaries, the people of Mbanta conclude that the missionaries possess extraordinary power and magic. The first recruits of the missionaries are Efulefu, the weak and worthless men of the village. Other villages, including a woman in the village, soon convert to Christianity. The missionaries then go to Mofia and start a school. Nwoye leaves his father's hut and moves to Mofia so he can attend the school. Later that night, Okonkwo sits alone in his hut, staring into the fire. His thoughts are a whirlwind of pain, anger, and confusion. The ghost of his father's failure haunts him still, but it's his son's betrayal that cuts deepest. I was stronger than him. I fought. I made something of myself, but now I've lost everything. And all because of this one thing: weakness. A shadow falls across the door, and Ekwefi enters. Her eyes are soft, but filled with concern for her husband, whose mind is clearly unraveling. Okonkwo, the anger, the hatred, it won't bring back what you've lost. It won't heal the wounds. You speak as if I can't heal. As if there's anything left to heal. Look around you, Ekwefi. Look at what we've become. We're nothing but shells of what we once were. Ekwefi places a hand on his, trying to reach him. There's tenderness in her touch, but also a trace of fear. But we still have each other. We still have our children, our memories. That's something, Okonkwo. That's something worth saving. Okonkwo pulls his hand away from hers, standing abruptly. He paces the small hut, agitated. What do we have left, Ekwefi? What is there for us in this dying world? The village is crumbling. Our son is lost to their lies, and the old ways are fading. You say we have each other, but I feel like I've lost everything. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be the man your father was. We can find a way to survive this together. Okonkwo looks at her, his expression torn. There is a flicker of the man he once was, but it's quickly swallowed by his anger and despair. It's too late. I have done too much, hurt too many people. There is no redemption, Ekwefi, no turning back. Okonkwo's exile is over, so his family arranges to return to Mofia before leaving Mbata. They prepare a huge feast for Okonkwo's mother's kinsmen in appreciation of their gratitude during Okonkwo's 7 years of exile. When Okonkwo returns to Mofia, he discovers that the village has changed during his absence. Many men have renounced their titles and have converted to Christianity. The white men have built a prison. They have established a government court of law where people are tried for breaking the white man's laws. And they also employ native of Umofia. Okonkwo wonders why the Mofians have not incited violence to rid the village of the white man's church and oppressive government. Some members of the Igbo clan like the changes in Umofia. Mr. Brown, the white missionary, respects the Igbo tradition. He makes an effort to learn about the Igbo culture and becomes friendly with some of the clan's leaders. He also encourages Igbo people of all ages to get an education. Mr. Brown tells Okonkwo that Nwoye, who has taken the name Isaac, is attending a teaching college. Nevertheless, Okonkwo is unhappy about the changes in Umofia. After Mr. Brown becomes ill and is forced to return to his homeland, Reverend James Smith becomes the new head of the Christian church. But Reverend Smith is nothing like Mr. Brown. He is intolerant of clan's customs and is very strict. Violence arises after Enoch, an overzealous convert to Christianity, unmasked an Egugu. In retaliation, the Egugu burns Enoch's compound and then destroy the Christian church because the missionaries have caused the Igbo people many problems. When the district commissioner returns to Mofia, he learns about the destruction of the church and asks 6 leaders of the village, including Okonkwo, to meet him. The men are jailed until they pay a fine of 250 bags of cowries. The people of Mofia collect the money and pay the fine, and the men are set free. The next day at a meeting for clansmen, 5 court messengers who intend to stop the gathering approach the group. Suddenly, Okonkwo jumps forward and beheads the man in charge of the messengers with his machete. When none of the other clansmen attempt to stop the messengers who escape, Okonkwo realizes that they would never go to war and that Umofia will surrender. The aftermath of the killing haunts Okonkwo. He cannot escape the feeling of guilt that plagues him. Ekwefi confronts him the night after the death. "What have you done, Okonkwo? What have you done to your heart? What has your pride cost us?" "I had no choice. It had to be done." "It didn't have to be this way. You could have chosen love, but you chose pride. And now we all suffer." Okonkwo stands in silence, his eyes filled with conflict. The love he has for his wives and children is buried beneath the weight of his pride, and it threatens to destroy him. Back in the quiet village, the moon casting a cold light over the hut, Okonkwo returns, his face grim and distant. Nwoye waits for him in front of their hut, his face full of anger and confusion. "Why, father, why did you do it?" Okonkwo looks at his son, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and bitterness. "Because it was necessary, because I must be strong. I will never be like you, father. Never." The first light of dawn begins to filter through the trees. Okonkwo stands at the edge of the forest, his machete in hand. His posture is stiff, glazed over with determination. "I will not be remembered as my father was. I will not be weak." He walks into the forest, the machete swinging with each heavy step. His heart is burdened by an overwhelming sense of failure and rage. As he enters deep into the forest, he finds a tree, tall, firm, and unyielding. The tree mirrors his inner turmoil. Maybe this is the only way. He ties the rope around the branch, his hands trembling as he secures the knot. His life, his legacy, everything he fought for feels like it's slipping away. As the rope settles around his neck, he takes one look at the sky, the weight of his decisions, too much to bear. A rustle of footsteps is heard behind him. It's Ikwefi calling out for him, her voice filled with panic. Akankwa, no! Please don't do this! You don't have to! Okonkwo turns slowly to face her, his expression unreadable. He meets her eyes, and for a fleeting moment, there's a glimmer of the man he once was. The man who loved, the man who fought, but then it fades. It's the only way, Kwefi. It's the only way to make it stop. With a final swift motion, Okonkwo ties the knot around the branch. His life ending as the world around him begins to fall apart. The sun rising on a day that would never be the same. Everything has fallen apart for Okonkwo. He commits suicide by hanging himself.